I spent months as my sister's unpaid wedding planner, only to be humiliated and sidelined on her big day. Now she and my siblings are furious I'm leaving them out of my own destination wedding after finally cutting ties with their toxic, manipulative drama. My sister 34F and her husband 36M just tied the knot 3 months ago. My 30F was the maid of honor, which I was genuinely delighted about. Since I was unemployed at the time and she's a doctor with a packed schedule, I took on almost all the wedding planning. She didn't hire a wedding planner, so it was all on me, and I poured everything into making her big day perfect. But the lead up to the wedding was rough. She treated me less like a sister and more like her personal assistant, or worse, her punching bag. Just because someone is the bride doesn't give them a free pass to act like a tyrant. I thought about backing out of the wedding party several times, but I convinced myself she was probably just stressed, so I bit my tongue and pushed through. After all I'd done for her, I was blindsided when she refused to invite my fiancé, even though we've been together for 12 years. She did invite my siblings' partners, who'd been around for a fraction of that time. Her reasoning: she didn't want people asking me about my own wedding. I'd had enough at that point, so I told her I wouldn't lift another finger until she apologized and extended an invitation to my fiancé. She eventually agreed, although not exactly with a heartfelt apology, but I let it go for the sake of peace. Still, it stung that she acted like my help was just something she was entitled to. On the wedding day, the ceremony was beautiful, and they both seemed happy, which made me happy for her. But things took a nosedive once we got to the reception. I noticed that while the rest of my family was at the VIP table, my fiancé and I were seated way off at a separate table, tucked near the kitchen. It didn't make sense, so I politely asked her about it, assuming it was just an oversight. She looked at me right in the eye and told me there was no mistake, that's exactly where she thought we belonged, at the kids' table, surrounded by 7 to 14-year-olds. Her husband overheard us and seemed to sympathize, but he clammed up when she shot him a "don't even think about it" glare. Later, he apologized to my parents for what happened, but didn't say a word to me, clearly under orders to stay quiet. I tried to brush it off and enjoy the night with my fiancé, but the whole thing just left a sour taste. It was the final straw for me, and I decided right then that I wasn't going to give a Mo speech. I'd done my part, more than my part, honestly, and I'd had enough. My parents noticed where I was sitting and were visibly upset, but my siblings? Not so much. They knew I wasn't at their table and didn't bother looking for me or wondering why. When they heard I wasn't making a Mo speech, my 2 brothers came over to tell me off. They scolded me, insisting I should understand the stress my sister was under as a bride, and that it was her once-in-a-lifetime day, yeah right, like that marriage will last. They called me selfish, a disgrace, and a disappointment for not wanting to make a speech, claiming I was somehow making the night about me when I was literally just sitting there quietly, out of the way. Honestly, I'd had enough, so my fiancé and I left the reception. We ended up grabbing dinner at McDonald's, and I couldn't resist posting a quick story saying, "Post-wedding meal," but I waited until the reception was over to avoid drama. My siblings still saw it as an attack on my sister somehow. To this day, my sister insists she did nothing wrong, and her reasoning for seating me in the far corner, according to her, 1, I hadn't planned her wedding exactly as she envisioned, so I deserved to sit there. 2, she didn't like that I looked pretty in my gown. And 3, I needed to be punished for insisting my fiancé be invited. I hadn't even started planning my own wedding yet because I wanted to be fully focused on hers. Plus, she'd banned me from getting married before her since she's older, and I agreed just to avoid drama. But now, I'm done. I just want my parents and a few close friends at my wedding. It's a destination wedding that my fiancé and I are paying for entirely from our savings, and I don't feel like splurging on people who didn't seem to care about me. My parents support my decision, but my siblings are calling me childish. They, along with my grandparents and cousins, say I'm wrong. But honestly, if I was excluded as a sibling at my sister's wedding and no one seemed to care, then why should they be upset if I choose to exclude them in return? Update 1. Here's a quick update and a few answers to some questions. I'm 30F, one of 5 kids. I didn't mention it earlier because I didn't think it was relevant, but I actually have 2 sisters 34 and 32 and 2 brothers 26 and 22. A little backstory on my sisters: they're incredibly close. The perfect picture of sisterly love, always in sync. Meanwhile, I'm the middle child, growing up with 2 younger brothers. So why did I agree to be the Mo? I thought it might bring us closer. I figured maybe this was my sister's way of wanting to bond with me, and I was eager for that chance. I've always hoped for a sisterly connection like what they have, and I tried to nurture that idea of a marriage bringing sisters together. My brothers have their close bond too. But for me, it's more about feeling left out than being a doormat. Growing up, I was often at home due to health issues while my siblings were out socializing. Ironically, they envied me for that since they're not close to our parents. The bride had both me and my other sister as Moes, saying she couldn't choose just one. But I later found out that I was the second option picked to handle all the work while my other sister got the praise. In hindsight, I probably should have seen that coming. So, while my brothers were berating me to give my Mo speech, my other sister was up there giving her own, gushing about how she loves the bride and would do anything for her. She then called all the siblings to the stage to toast the bride and groom right when I was walking away, trying not to cry. So to the relatives, it looked like I was making a scene and making it about me. And no, it wasn't the first time my sister had hurt me. As a child, she would call me potato because of my weight, said I was a burden due to my epilepsy, soaked my makeup in the sink because I moved her towel, and called me stupid despite me being a licensed architect with a master's degree. She even took my dream church for her wedding, which is why my fiancé suggested a destination wedding in my dream country. But this was by far the worst she's done, humiliating me in the front of everyone. We haven't spoken since, and she still claims I ruined everything by getting upset over the seating. Here's the update. 1. We're eloping. Just the two of us and a handful of close friends who've been there since day one. We're planning a small church ceremony, followed by a beach celebration with our chosen family, and some island hopping around the Philippines with our group, all covered by us. We decided that the budget we originally set for a wedding in Italy will now go toward an intimate 5-day celebration on a beautiful island. I'm delighted to spend on unforgettable experiences with people who truly appreciate us. 2. Family reception back home after we return. We'll host a luncheon for both families the following weekend, around 80 guests total. Our parents, who wanted to help with the engagement party and rehearsal dinner, have agreed to cover this reception instead, so they'll handle the guest list. If my siblings end up invited, I don't mind. I'll be too busy with my husband to care. We'll still have our father-daughter dancing, cake cutting, and other little traditions. We'll make it fun with piñatas, a pizza cart, coffee, pretzels, and a full Italian buffet with a pasta bar, fresh fruit, and plenty of cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? And the seating plan? Think, Mamma Mia, a long table where my siblings will be far from us, seated near the restrooms where they can stick together at their own siblings' table. I feel nothing for them now, just indifference. 3. No Bridezilla invited. My sister, who expects to be my Mo, will be getting a big no from me since she and my other siblings won't be part of the actual ceremony. She'll be invited to the luncheon out of courtesy, and I'll make sure she's treated as I was. Conveniently, she's due around June, the month we wanted to marry anyway. If she decides to come with her newborn, she'll be at the kiddie table, and if the baby cries, they can step outside. At the end of the day, this wedding is about us. Eloping feels like the best way for us to genuinely enjoy our day together without my family's drama. When we're back, we'll have a fun, laid-back lunch with some good food and better company, exactly how I wanted. Fortunately, my fiancé's family isn't as chaotic as mine. So there you have it. Thank you all for the support, advice, and reality checks. I was starting to feel like I was overreacting, but you've helped me find clarity. Cheers to closing out this exhausting year and moving forward. New update, 9 months later. I know a lot of you have been waiting for an update, and I swear I posted as soon as I could. Thanks for being patient. Let me catch you up. The wedding. Planning this wedding with my husband was an absolute blast. Honestly, if you're considering getting married, keep it small. You'll thank yourself. We told everyone we were postponing the wedding and wanted to do a destination bachelorette trip first. No one knew we were actually getting married on this trip. We arrived in Boracay 3 days before our friends to get some alone time. When everyone showed up, we had the best time doing island activities. The night before the wedding, we asked everyone to be up at 7 a.m. for breakfast and to dress up in tropical beach outfits for pictures. Then, my husband dropped the bomb that we were getting married at 4 p.m. that day. Their excitement was priceless and something I'll never forget. Us girls helped each other with hair and makeup, cried, hugged, while the guys played football and hung out. We captured everything on our phones and an old digital camera we passed around. Surprises have been our thing since we started dating, so we both loved pulling off this surprise wedding. I love flowers but didn't want the hassle of finding a supplier, so I figured I'd just get some for our luncheon later. But my husband secretly worked with the hotel to surprise me with a bouquet of my favorite flowers, and the church was filled with them too. I was a mess walking in, full-on ugly crying, and because he's close with his brothers, I made sure they were there to surprise him too. They were his best men, after all. We said our vows, had dinner on the beach with a boodle fight. Google it, it's amazing. Nothing fancy, but it was perfect. The luncheon. Before the wedding, I sent the seating plan to the family group chat to avoid any drama on the day. Everyone assumed it was for our reception. Here's where my petty side showed. Our head table was just us, our parents, and my husband's brothers. All my siblings, scattered at the far ends of a long table. My favorite bit, I reserved a single table at the back as the breastfeeding area with my sister's name on it. She was furious. I told her I just wanted her to have some privacy. No hard feelings, just being considered, of course. Naturally, my siblings refused to come, saying the elopement was disrespectful, especially since my brothers-in-law were there. They even called other relatives, asking them not to come. In the end, from 127 invited, we had just 58 attending. But hey, that's a win for my budget. The venue was my husband's family's small farm, which was so beautiful I barely needed any decor. Our music was a Spotify playlist we made together. Photos, print-up, beach, and luncheon were all done by friends, and my mom and I baked the cake 2 nights before. I bought flowers myself from the morning market, then arranged them with my girls. My dress, just one I already had in my closet. For food, we asked guests to bring potluck dishes instead of gifts. If they wanted, we still had a pizza oven, pretzel cart, and coffee bar we paid for instead of a caterer. E-prompts, designed and scented by us. Since my siblings decided not to attend, only Bridezilla's husband got an invite with no +1. Her C-section was scheduled a week before, so yes, she figured out I planned things so she'd miss the luncheon. And you know what? It was perfect. Our calmness through it all seemed to irritate them even more. But I've realized the harder people push their opinions, the more toxic, unhinged, and narcissistic they come across. And no, I didn't have to cut ties. They chose to go no contact with me. Didn't even have to lift a finger. Blessings everywhere. To those asking about my parents, they never neglected my siblings. If anything, my siblings got all the extra attention and freedom to make up for the focus I needed. These kids are grown adults now, and my parents, who are seniors, are just exhausted. They did call my siblings out for being massive jerks, but honestly, what more can they do? Put them in timeout? Our parents wanted to help with the wedding, so instead, they contributed to our house down payment, and we surprised them with a week-long vacation in Pillow as a thank you. All the extra food and flowers from the wedding were either taken home by guests or donated, which made it even more meaningful. Weddings are about love, and we were surrounded by our favorite people who celebrated us while we celebrated them. Our family, best friends, and dogs who really stole the show were all there. I'm finally at peace and indifferent toward my siblings. Couldn't tell you what they're up to. They booted me from the group chat, and the only reason I know my sister gave birth is because her husband messaged me. Last I heard, they're still trying to badmouth my husband, but we couldn't care less. We've moved on. Too bad for them if they haven't. Thank you to everyone who followed along. It's been empowering to know I wasn't alone, and hearing your insights reminded me that this type of sibling abuse isn't normal.